Hello everybody, here we are today doing our season preview over the Dallas Stars, talking about whether or not Dallas will be able to win the Stanley Cup this year. So before we get started with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So last season proved to be another fantastic year for the Stars as they had 113 points and were able to just do a whole lot. Again, another quality high-end year where they snagged the top spot in the Western Conference, they won the division title, and they made it to the Western Conference final. Yet again, another deep playoff run. But like we've seen before with this team, they fell short of their ultimate goal. They fell in the Western Conference final to the Edmonton Oilers. It was painful, and they have yet another offseason to think about how they are so close. And out of most teams, if not all teams in the NHL, they probably understand that they deserve or have the biggest opportunity to win the Stanley Cup. And so now they again think, is this actually going to be the time when we rise to the occasion? So with all this being brought up, what are some storylines to talk about for Dallas for this season? So the first storyline is talking about whether or not they're the most blessed team in the NHL. I know this may seem a little bit cringy, but Dallas is so good in a variety of ways. Last year proved to be, again, one of those years where you say this team could actually be headed somewhere, and that somewhere could be winning the Stanley Cup, as they had their second best year in franchise history. They scored a lot of goals. They didn't allow a lot of goals. They were able to be really good on special teams in terms of the power play percentage, the PK percentage. They were nearly top 10 in save percentage over this time. They have just variety of players that could be going in great spots in their career. Not even just that, but in different stages of their career. The guys that are just cracking into the NHL, that are thriving, guys that are already younger but are thriving, the older guys that are thriving. This team is just doing about everything right. They're able to go on long win streaks. They are a team that can play in front a lot. In fact, I think they were in the top 5 for minutes where they played with a lead in the NHL last year. This is just all kind of indicators as to why they've been so good. They are a team that's deep. They are a team that is able to see guys play two ways. They have a potential star in Jake Oettinger in net. I don't really know what to say here other than the fact that Dallas is one of the better teams in the league, and I do think most people understand they are blessed compared to almost the entirety of the NHL. And if we're talking about realistically here, it's probably the most blessed franchise right now. I mean, it's not every day you can say you have star forward, star defenseman, and then a star goalie. So yes, ironically saying star here is something that we are bringing up, but it's also in terms of value. So I don't want to be saying that Dallas has got everything, but they've got a little bit of everything. The second storyline is talking about whether or not Dallas is too reliant on their old guys. We have talked about this during their playoff run, as Dallas is a team that does feature a lot of different age brackets and whatnot, but I do think they are pretty reliant on those older guys to help get the job done. Like looking at Joel Pavelski, a player that played with him for 5 seasons. The past 4 years especially looked really, really good as he was able to revive his career, keep things going, as I was just very impressed about what he was able to do. He is retired, but it's not just the fact that they are losing him either. There's other guys too you have to worry a little bit about. Matt Duchene, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn. All of these guys are at or near or over 1,000 games played in the NHL. Some of them, if not all of them, have had relatively bad seasons or just down seasons in recent years and have dealt with injuries before, as again, this is the grind of the NHL. And so you are worrying a little bit about whether or not they're going to be dead weight, because at this stage right now, the Dallas Stars don't need dead weight. They need all hands on deck as they try to go out there and win the Stanley Cup. So I am a little bit curious to see how things will go for them, especially if some of these older guys are dealing with the injury bug or just playing poorly. And it will be something that could hurt the team in the long run in terms of the standings, in terms of the road to the playoffs or the path to the Stanley Cup, if you will. So watch out for this side and see how those older guys do, because if they can continue to play very well, or at least play their part, they're going to be all right. And I think that's kind of the good thing too for this team right now. These older players that were the top end guys for them a few years ago don't have to be those top end guys anymore. And Matt Duchene was brought in on a cheap deal, so not like they expected him to be this star for them, but just one of those things where depth and having good older players certainly isn't a bad thing come playoff time. The third and final storyline is talking about whether or not third time's the charm, as in Dallas's case, you could argue maybe fourth time's the charm, as they have been able to go on to the Western Conference Final 3 times in the past 5 years. They went all the way to the Stanley Cup Final in 2020, and this team is just on the verge. Their sights are set on winning the Stanley Cup, and we've talked about other teams like maybe New York, where their goal is something bigger. And I think in Dallas's case, it kind of follows a similar path to New York, except even bolder, as I do think they should have even higher aspirations and expectations that they should claim the Stanley Cup. They've had to stomach some absolutely gut-wrenching and painful losses over the past few years. but they're there, and they are on the verge of possibly doing something very, very big, as this team would win their second franchise title. And on top of that too, you understand, like we've talked about already with age brackets and whatnot, they have more reinforcements on the way, as guys that are younger are called their contenders. You have to factor in as well, Jason Robertson, I think, had just like 27 goals around there this past season, and you just get so fearful if you have to play this Dallas team that has proven to be one of the better sides of the past 2 years. 108-point season and then 113-point season over those past 2 campaigns. Be very afraid come playoff time. And I know we've talked about this before on the channel, but it is true. Teams that we've seen before in recent years that get stuck in the playoffs have been able to break through and actually go on to win that championship. And I think in Dallas's case, they probably would be able to do that, as well as they aren't as nearly as much pressure as some other teams were. They've been able to go on multiple deep runs where they could say other teams were getting stuck in the first round, the second round, or maybe they just falter after a deep run before. Dallas has been able to back it up consistently, and now they just have to figure out how exactly to get to the top of the mountain. I know some people probably argue, well, while this team does have that Stanley Cup final experience to some extent, a lot of these younger guys won't have that experience. But to me, that doesn't bother me as much. A team that can throw out a lot of lines that are very good, I'm not very bothered by that. And I think that if Ottinger's hot, this team is going to be a side that very well will go on to win the Stanley Cup. So overall, what are my thoughts on Dallas? Well, if you haven't been able to pick it up yet, my thoughts are they are a Stanley Cup contender. They were a team last year in the playoffs that were viewed as that. They will be a team again this year that should be viewed as that. And barring a really slow start to the season, they're going to be in a great spot for playoff positioning. Could go out there and win their division again, even though teams like Colorado are going to be out there and motivated trying to stop them. But I do feel like Dallas has got quite a bit of motivation there. They've been able to see rivals like the Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights going to win the championship, and they want a slice of the pie as well, so they can just say, hey, we're champions as well. We are able to be one of those top tier teams, but even then some, because we've backed it up with so many quality seasons, but also have a ring and a banner. And they'd get to hoist Lord Stanley as well out of all this. And I think for me, I just have to tell myself, don't get too far ahead of yourself for the season, as you really overhyped New Jersey last year. But New Jersey and Dallas are teams that I really hyped up last season, kind of doing it again this year. And I would say for Dallas's case, they will probably be a very good team again. New Jersey still up in the air, but I feel really confident about them. I'd love to see a rematch between these two, as they met in the Stanley Cup final before, and let's see if that happens again this year. So anyway, what are your thoughts on the Dallas Stars for this season? Will Dallas be able to hoist the cup, or is that just going to be something that is a fantasy? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.